Okay, thank you and welcome. So it's nice to be in the university context again. So I was about to talk about my home lab. So I've been doing it actually more than 15 years ago. And I'm about to talk about how I finally built it as a platform API on Kubernetes. So I started on more simple setup. You can see on the screenshot that I have a ZFS storage pool that is already created in 2020 and it's still in use. Yes, so why I did this, some learnings, and hopefully if I inspire someone to do something similar, that's very great. So who am I? I'm Toni Ylenius. I work at the OP. I do platform engineering stuff, quite low-level things. I would like to do something like value providing at some point, but it's mostly been in the low-level stuff. But of course, that's a good combination with the interest in open source, etc. At home, very family-oriented, so the life is built around the family things. And most importantly, I'm very willing to discuss any of these, so please contact me if there's anything. So a bit about OP. So this talk is more my personal project, but there is a link. So OP, it's OP Pohjola. It's a financial group. It's one of the largest in Finland. It's owned by the bank members. I work there in the cloud container team. I'm the lead developer there. I'm working in the Azure container side. We also have the on-prem container side. Both are using Kubernetes. I also had a major impact on the on-prem side too. There are nice challenges there, and you can imagine if you go to op.fi or op mobile, quite many of those might be touching these systems. Yes, so what is the link? So the OP, there are challenging opportunities. And as I like to do the home lab stuff, I get the inspiration from the work. And then it's also the other way around. So if I get a new idea, then I might propose that at the work context. But then to my project. So I quickly drove through my history. So where did I start? Where did I end up? Go through the details, then have a demo, and then some insights that what I learned. There are quite a lot of things, and that's intentional because I want to raise the discussion. So please contact if there are anything remains unclear. But I also try to focus the key point. So where I started from is EPC. When I was at the university, the Linux clicked. So I had already tried the Linux before, but when I went to university, I understood, okay, now Linux is actually very simple compared to Windows. And I started understanding how it works. So of course, I built something at home using Slackware, then switched my desktop to Debian, then did a lot of distro hopping, and ended up in FreeBSD. So there I started actually building quite big system. I don't know where did I get the idea, but I built system on FreeBSD ZFS jails using CFEngine on 3 sites, 15 servers, replicated Kerberos setup, emails, Nagios monitoring, etc. And that was nice because that actually helped me to get my first job as a system administrator because I was able to convince that, okay, I know the stuff. I was able to explain how the FTP active mode works if you know the back and forth communication. And this is the time when I built this first ZFS storage. But when I got the job, it was a bit regression because I realized that, okay, they are not doing it like this at the work. So I reverted back manually writing down the instructions, etc. But that didn't last long. Then I started again building something. The next iteration was SaltStack VMs. So because that time I was introduced to OpenStack. So I did something similar. I also built a custom project Docker. It is Docker on ZFS and FreeBSD. But that didn't last that long. And at 2016, I met Kubernetes. So I started OpenShift project. But anyways, Kubernetes was not that mature back then. The upgrades were very hard, etc. So at home, I still continued on the VM track. But now at this time, Terraform, Packer, Golden, images, libvirt, etc. and a lot of scripting. So I tried to find a good balance. But then we started building a home or the new house at 2020. And I realized that everything is so complicated. So I reverted back to Raspberry Pis. I switched to Debian. And a bit more details about that. But the idea was that now I actually started using the containers that came from the Kubernetes world. And this is close to what is now. So now I'm like more, because Kubernetes is getting mature and it's like the de facto standard. So now I'm building on top of Kubernetes. I'm also migrating from LXC to Podman, and now taking also laptops, not only like the Raspberry Pis. But yeah, then quickly why I do this. So of course, the most important is about the learning and fun. But there are also some use cases, and actually I will quickly show what I run there. For example, there is this C file. It's like the file storage system. Then there are the photos. These are maybe the two most important use cases. And actually the C file is quite nice if you haven't met, because it's like very much OneDrive-like. So if you browse I browse my files there, it's like a kind of a swallow copy. So these files are not on my laptop. But when I go here, sorry, maybe not that one. If I open a file, then it's actually downloaded. So this is downloaded now when I open it. But that's very nice. So those are maybe the kind of the use cases. And then we can go to details. So how I run it now. So I have switched to this Debian, but there is like a special twist there, because I want to treat the Debian as like kind of immutable. And I do it so that I have a sudo config that says that I'm not only able to install packages or start containers. So that makes me to treat it so that I need to create a like config package. So if I want to set, for example, monitoring or like container setup or some like low-level thing, you need to create a package and then install it. I cannot like do anything else, and I'm not using any config management tool there. And what did this actually enable, that I don't need to anymore like PXE boot hosts, because they can live for 5 years without changing. They're very stable. I enable automatic upgrades, and they simply work. And everything that changes are now in a containers. For example, Kubernetes is running a container. I call them like infrastructure containers. And then I have built this like infrastructure scheduler, where I say that, okay, it does a static scheduling. I said I need 1 gigabyte memory, 1 CPU. It will find me a like host, but it doesn't like keep any state. But it like says that, okay, go there, and then it takes the place. A bit about networking, flat networking. Previously, I had VLANs migrating away, and I also did statically assign the IPs to these infrastructure containers. One special thing is this DNS, so I have my own DNS server, but that's in a hidden primary setup, so I'm not actually exposing that one. And as a VPN, I'm using Tailscale, but with my custom headscale, or not custom, but own hosted headscale instance. Bit about the storage, not that much. Previously was using NASes, ZFS, NFS a lot. Would like to migrate actually to this local storage. And reason is that there is not that much redundancy on the left either, so why not run it locally? Because nowadays you need a performance. The SSDs are much faster than the network. And monitoring quite little, because at home you don't need that much. Make a special mention this ecometric. So I created like project that where I measure the power use of a node, and then I can approximate that, okay, if the CPU usage is 50%, that it means that I'm using this much power. Then how I actually operate, on the down there is this admin workstation where I run this scheduler thing. Then I have this new admin Kubernetes I will show quickly, but when I like install something, then I'm actually in a dev container that only has a limited like set of privileges. So I can give like, you can now give it that to AI and it won't break anything, but except that one project. And the secrets, I'm actually sharing them using Kubernetes. So I don't have any vault or anything, at least not anymore. And then about this current setup and more details about admin Kubernetes, because that's one key things in this presentation. So how I did this, because the Kubernetes management is quite tricky. That's one of the issues. How do you keep it like maintained and upgrade it automatically? So actually how I now do it, that my most important Kubernetes cluster, this admin one, is such that I can like turn it down, turn it on. I have a like backup of it. And all the important things like DNS setups, certificates are there. So for example, if I now start a new project that is like infra level, I'm actually using these to automate the DNS and certificate management, because this was one of the tricky parts. I will show that a bit soon also. So this like enabling infra containers to get certificate DNS, that's one thing. Admin Kubernetes, one thing. Then there is this concept of rotating account token service account. So I built it's basically a script that you initialize it, it does a federation. Now this infra container is actually able to get and manage things inside this namespace. So that enables like getting the latest certificate. But yeah, let's now go to demo. And in this demo, the use case is that I want to experiment this with Snicket, that's an XMPP server. I need to install it as an infrastructure container. And the demo goes so that there is this S3B, that is my S3 instance. I will start the admin from there and then install the Snicket. All this is now running on my laptop. This is like a personal one. So this is not like the real environment, but this should still work. Let's see. So as I mentioned, I only have this S3B running. So these are like Podman containers, as I mentioned, the Podman. And I got convinced that this is the only one running there. So where I will start, I will go to this. I'm actually in the wrong place. Workspaces. I will go to this repository, then I will start the deploy. Create. Then I will restore the backup. And I already like copied the backup from the S3. The S3 likes this. I'm using this Versity gateway. And there are like the backup files in the S3. So I picked one of them. So now the backup has been restored. It's basically a SQLite database and the token. And then I deploy, I say like init safe. What this does, it starts the container in a safe, or the Kubernetes container K3S in a safe mode. It doesn't start actually the container. So this way you can check that, okay, what is the content? You can actually now take it in the another laptop and check the items. And why this is useful because I use this to manage like the things on my home platform. I will just show if this works. Sorry, the detail. Yeah, now it's working. Debug. Shows that the containers are running, but then when you go to actually inside, they are not running. Exec, I'm trying to write. Not that one. So there's nothing actually running. And then we run this going to like operational mode, and that means that then it will start containers. It will take some time, of course. I'm using my mobile. Because it will now start from the scratch, the K3S, then according to the backup, it will start downloading the things. I will quickly show how it's like built. So on the left, there is this, okay, not the Snicket one. There's the admin K8S repository. So how I do this Podman, I'm using these pod manifests. So this looks very familiar because this is now like Kubernetes manifests. So I'm using the same YAML format with this Podman kubeplay to deploy now the local container. So this K3S is defined like this. So it's quite nice. And then there are also additional files like those DNS settings and certificates. So this kube API proxy is actually underneath here. And that's one of those like important details, because this now all the traffic to Kubernetes is routed over this proxy. So if I now open run k get pod, it won't work yet because the I will just check my config is okay. Yeah, it doesn't work yet because the pod is not up. So we need to wait a bit, but of course we can go inside. I already had it somewhere here. We can go inside the container and check the status. So as you can see, Oh yeah, this looks very promising, but let's wait. So now it's downloading the images and trying to start up. And next, when this is up, then I will create this snicket one, and it will use this then to create the certificates and DNS entries. Okay. I think we would need this external DNS. Okay, logs. Okay, it's not up. Let's soon. But now, while waiting, I will quickly show the alternative. So why I ended up here is the issue is that, or not the issue, but the history. So I started with, oh no, it's about top the repository, this one. So for example, this is one of those iterations from 10 years ago. I had like Terraform files that started like live with VM. Then I had scripts, or in this case, not script, but the salt stack. That's one of those configuration management tools, like Puppet, CFEngine, Ansible, etc. So I had this, but it's, you can see maybe the complexity. Then the next iteration was this PXE script based. So now the Terraform file is more complex because there is a lot of like shell scripting inside and a lot of scripts in the directories. And the latest iteration before this Kubernetes one is this LXC and infra scheduling. And how I did it was that there is a config file with, for example, the reference to the image. Then there is like JSON template that generates like file, or JSON files, like with the environment variables, etc. And those are then passed to the controllers, like container sh. Then that runs the infra scheduler, and this infra scheduler look like this. So you run like manually that something, and there are, you can see my nodes are, for example, listed there. So this is like the old way. Actually, before the Kubernetes, I deployed all my things like this. But now I'm trying to shift so that I would deploy only the infrastructure stuff with that. But okay, now it should be up. Yes. So what we will do, as you can see, okay, the operator is not up. That's not bad. But as you can see, I will quickly just show that we have the certificates, not PO, certificates. We have some certificates here. As you can see, there are like some tests and this S3 certificate. The lowest one is actually the Kubernetes certificate that we are accessing. And then we have the DNS entries, and we also have the actual cluster DNS record here. So the cluster is self-managing its own DNS and certificates. And then S3B and one example. But yeah, let's now go to snicket. So we go to snicket. Just to convince we don't have any DNS entry yet. Then we deploy. We need to first create the namespace. This one will deploy the DNS and certificate entries. You can see it's okay, not yet ready, but it should be soon. It's using the DNS like validation from the Let's Encrypt. Then we will deploy the container soon. Should I wait? I'm not sure. Am I patient enough? Let's deploy snicket. Deploy. So this will now start the pods with a similar config as the, the same Podman kube apply system. And then I will initialize this rat thing. So this will initialize the federation between. But let's check the certificate first. Still false. It actually might. Yeah, let's see if there's a demo effect. But then I think I can do the init already. Init rat. And what it will do, logs. There is this, in this pod config, there is like cert refresher container. So it will first like get the token I created, then it will start waiting that, okay, do we have the certificate ready? If it takes too long, then I need to actually restart the container, but let's see. Also check that the external DNS is fine, because this is like the tricky part, also the way it like the DNS DNS entry first to be applied, because external DNS there's a loop, and also the like propagate. Let's see if we have enough time. No. Okay. Maybe I'll switch the recording part here. I'm checking. Yes, it's this one. So where am I? Where was I? Recording host, chat. Okay, it's already running there. So maybe it's somewhere here. No. So after the config, I was showing out the snicket config. So there is the pod, similar pod config as in the admin. And those are running as like a podman pods locally, so not in Kubernetes. So that's the detail here. And I'm checking that the DNS has propagated. Yes, it's there. And then I should be next like switching to the. So yeah, this is like snicket special. You need to then of course like initialize the snicket. Then I need to do that to like generate the certificate. I'm now checking that the DNS has propagated. And then we do the init. So this is just to like show you that it works. We need to change the port because it's running locally, so it's not in the 443. But okay, now we have the app working. So we have a like valid certificate. We have a like DNS entry. And I think the nice part is here that it's compared to those like script examples I had. To me, this is very much more simple. So we only have like that podman config and then manifest. So we have like certificate YAML, we have DNS YAMLs, then we have this service account and the role definitions. The most complicated part is this refreshing. So I need to get the token and then refresh the certificate. So I need to have like some logic to do that. But that's the most complicated part. Otherwise, this all like, I don't have any more like any custom, but I'm reusing like the parts on Kubernetes community. But that's the demo. Then let's go back. So what I learned, so I'm like collecting the things. So first one was this immutable infra. That was helped me a lot. So I don't need to anymore manage the low level, no more PXD, etc. With automatic upgrades, that's very powerful. Then I did the static scheduling. I think this is something you kind of need. So because you cannot manage DNS storage, etc. with Kubernetes, or you can, but maybe it's not the best practice. So you need something. How do you like do the low-level things? And of course, this automatic DNS certificate, that's something you always need to deal with. So that's very important. And maybe just one learning overall that Kubernetes is actually quite reliable and good compared to these my custom-based things. Because I actually built, when I was in this SaltStack Jocker era, I built like kind of similar system. So I had a console that configured load balancer when I started a container, etc. So I was kind of building the Kubernetes, but then I found the opposite. How to make the Kubernetes easy? So I think the main thing here is this making the upgrades and replacing easy, because something might fail, etc. And how I did it was this easy to backup. Then this DNS, automatic DNS and certificate management makes it easy, so I can simply switch, because managing those CI files is tricky. And this Kube API proxy helps there, because I can basically move it to another node. Then that kind of the DevOps part, I'm closing here. So the API, like creating an API, that helps in this home setting too. Reproducibility of the local environments, dev containers, etc. And I'm also like highlighting two other concepts. So there is this something I've been thinking. So you can do either as a library or as a service. So if you do it as a library, that's kind of like creating a Terraform module, or as a service means that you provide like DNS as a service. There are a lot of benefits like catalog, clear abstraction, but that has been like quite hard to do before. But now as we have Kubernetes, cert manager, external DNS, actually the right one is quite easy to do. And this has been something I've been struggling a lot. So how do you like think of this? We have an OS there on the right, there's the data. That's the thing you need to back up. So if you think about the OS layer, there's a lot of things, but you actually maybe deploy Kubernetes on top, then actually the data gets smaller. But when you think about this, for example, this photo app, there's only little data you need to manage. All the others are, if you think about combined, everything else is like common configuration. And I think I made a kind of the mistake when I started with CFEngine, also with the other approaches, that I tried to go with the last one. So you try to automate everything in a one place. And that's kind of a mistake. And this is kind of the thing, the platform thing, that I realized that, okay, it's actually, for me, easier if I only think about this third one. So as I deploy the snippet, as I deploy some other app, your context is only this like little part. You only think about the configs, but that means that you need to have a like platform API in between. So we are like shifting the complexity rather than putting everything in one repository and trying to manage that. So why I rebuild it? To make my life easier. I'm like trying to find the balance. As you have seen, I'm going back and forth, maybe going once again back to the complex approach, but this time I'm at least believing it's maybe the right direction. And also why it could be the right direction is that I'm able to reuse the tooling from the internet rather than building my custom one. And why I built it, of course, because the learning, and I'm interested in this. So I enjoy like thinking that stuff that, okay, how could I do this? But why you should do the home labbing? Same reason, the learning. There is one thing that I have a feeling that when you're at work and when somewhere around junior to senior level, you can see it if the people does something at home. Because there is kind of multiplier effect that, okay, when you do something at home and work, you are more better at that. So maybe that's one good reason. But of course, remember that tech is not the most important one. So if you are not into this, then please don't. But if you have like similar interests, please try it out and reach me out if you have anything to ask. So thank you.